Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to make some kind of freezer. Now, this is going to require... Okay, I'm going to need more corridor here because, to be perfectly honest with you, we really don't want agents to be bumping into this kind of thing. So, ideally, we want it fairly deep in the base, but not too deep, because to get to the freezer, people are going to have to carry it, and carrying it means that they physically hold in the body, and everyone they walk past through my carefully constructed corridor of high populated areas are going to be seeing the body bag and feeling bad about it, especially the dude carrying it. You don't want him to be carrying that for too long, because he's going to start to question if he's doing the right thing. Now, you could give less of a fuck about his moral quandary, but the fact that he might suddenly turn tail and run is a bit of a waste of everyone's time. This room is surprisingly big, not because you're going to be killing that many people, hopefully, but because the freezer racks take up a fair bit of space, actually. And they're a bit clunky, and they sort of tend to overlap like that in a very ugly way. I'm not going to fill the whole... When I was a kid, I used to fill the whole thing with these guys, and sure, that's viable. But you don't need all that space, and secondly, we're going to need some free space just to dump stuff. So I'm going to leave him like that. I'm not really thinking about this being absolutely the best possible layout. There are better layouts, and more so than that, you can plan these things. There is a... God, it's probably offline by this point, because everything to do with this game has died. But there was a fan-made website where you basically... It was basically paint, but someone had taken the time and effort to lay out the exact number of squares and in the pattern that they are in this game that is the buildable space on each island, and so you could colour in each square, i.e. each pixel, and build your map and decide the best layout and figure out exactly how everything fitted together. So I would have noticed, having planned this, that leaving this space here is a waste of time. And also, if I had moved this too along, there would have been more space for this dude without having to sacrifice space for this dude. Instead, I've been left with this. Now, this isn't the end of the world. I can still turn this into, say, for example, a staff room. But this little bit here is sort of a waste of space. Because the wall here precludes any kind of neat little square. So that's the biggest space you're going to get there, unless you start bleeding into what is otherwise a perfectly decent square room. And also the lockers are kind of in the way, which is a bit shit. I suppose you could have a second door here, which would lead into the same time-wasting benign area. I might do that. I don't know if that would help anything. I mean, they've got 2 doors to check. I don't know if they care enough to check. Actually, no, you couldn't, because the only way that would work is if this thing's too big, which means having an ugly space where the corridor... And I cannot abide ugliness, so that's not happening. This guy's getting built, this guy's getting built, people are putting doors down, everyone's rushing about. Most people have nothing to do, so they're snoozing. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send some people to steal from the world. You might think, Alistair, that's madness. You have no information, you have no backup, you have terrible stats. What's going to happen? Well, here's a little trick. You see, the game hasn't properly begun yet. These guys didn't really represent any agency. They were never going to leave the island. They couldn't even physically kill your minions, because that would be, I don't know, unfair. We're still in the beginning mission. The next thing to do is learn about training via kidnapping a person who's wandered onto your island. Most of the training hostages you steal from the world map, but this guy has quite cooperatively come to your island and is just ambling about for all time until such a time as you need her skills. You will capture her, you will bring her to an armory, which I will build shortly. Oh, do you know what? I've just realised. I don't need that. This needs to be accessed through the armory. Because what you can end up with, quite wonderfully, and I've sort of laid this out funny, but I don't really care that much about the space, so I'm going to do it anyway. What you end up with quite wonderfully is the opportunity to have your prison cells facing directly onto your freezer. You don't really need this space here. You could have the backs of the cells facing, but I just like the aesthetic of it. I feel like the cells should be backed up against a solid wall. So yeah, you don't want an access to your freezer. You want people to be coming into the freezer. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you don't need this. I guess you don't need this. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Where was I? So you capture her, you bring her here, you interrogate her. The person who interrogates her learns her skills, turns into a valet. You then get the training mission, training equipment. She can train up other valets, and then you get the access to steal a guard and a technician from the world at large, and repeat the same process with the science and military trees. And thereafter, guards will train other guards, and then one of them will interrogate well, rather anyone will interrogate a mercenary when you find one. They will turn into a mercenary. Mercenaries can then train guards into other guards, and you see guard, mercenary, martial artist, sniper, technician, scientist, quantum physicist, biochemist, valet, spin doctor, diplomat, playboy. Yes, the last one's a bit weird and kooky, but whatever. Anyway, point is, game hasn't started yet. No one will be sending anything to you. No one will give a damn about you. No one will be putting unnecessary pressure on you whilst you're trying to get established, partly because the game's trying to slowly teach you the skills to play this game, and it'd be a bit unfair to be throwing things at you that you don't even know exist yet, such as thieves and heat and notoriety. So, unless I have massively misremembered how this worked, I can steal from the wealthiest parts of the world. And in fact, let me just double check something. No, yeah, there used to be a problem with these guys where they actually, and it still might be true, so you see he's excellent at stealing and terrible at plotting, and that's how you discover new missions. These guys are terrible at everything. There used to be a problem where henchmen would, and you see how they're measured in the game with little, I love it, it's cute, but they used to have a problem where they actually, because of some error in the way they were coded, it was literally, you could fix it yourself by going into Notepad and opening a .ini file. The modifiers they had on missions and stealing and things actually were negatives, so although they're meant to make missions shorter and safer, they made them longer and more dangerous, just because someone fucked up how quantities work in coding, I guess. So, we're building all this stuff, we're going to train that person up, we're stealing free money from the world. I'm not going to do it too much because it's a bit of an exploit, but if I wanted to, I could leave them there. I could go about my day, I could leave the computer on for 32, I could hold it on for infinite hours, but I could leave it on for like up to, 30 hours and come back, nothing will have changed, nothing bad will have happened. Maybe these guys will have got disloyal and run off, but because they're construction workers, I've lost nothing in them, and also I'm replenishing them for free at a constant rate. I've lost nothing, no one has come to the island, nothing bad has happened. And I now have more money than sense, which is always true because I'm an evil genius. I'm insane. I'm also not going to build all these guys off the bat because they're sort of expensive, and I can build them later. There's no rush. So, what we end up with now is we are quite low on. No, we're not low on cash. I beg your pardon. We just need to get rid of this guy. That's another thing to do. This storeroom needs to go. You always have to have a storeroom. You could destroy everything else in the game, but you need a storeroom because otherwise the game physically has nowhere to put. Look, she's not going to give a shit. She's not going to run away. She's not going to panic. Nothing. The game just doesn't want to complicate this at this point. This guy he's losing his attention and his loyalty for having been near these body bags. But you know what? Let them rot. They rot quicker in the sun. Leaving body bags out, the only upside to doing this, and that's why I'm doing it right now, because there are no other downsides, because there's no heat and nothing. They decompose quicker when they're not frozen. Makes sense, right? Freezing them preserves them, but it also kind of stows them away, so they stop being a negative element, but they become more durable, and they tend to hang around and be pestering and stuff. While we're waiting, here's a question. There's a windsock on this game, and I've always wondered what the hell affects where it points. And my working theory is that it very slowly and jitterily tries to follow your cursor. Because that seems like a fairly arbitrary way to kind of simulate random wind. But do you see what I mean? It seems to be following the cursor. I have spent far too long just sitting around waiting for things to be accomplished in this game. Fucking around with this windsock. I am 90% sure it's following the cursor, but that might be confirmation bias. It's certainly going in a fairly random order, but it takes too long to watch an experiment for any long period of time. I get bored. So this guy's stuff are beginning to lower. Now when he gets to low loyalty, whatever, he runs away. When he gets to low attention, that's a problem, kind of, because he will just stand around in a stupor. What I might do, it shouldn't be too big a deal. She's standing there, she's replenishing people naturally. Each of the evil geniuses has a different aura. Alexis has the largest, but it's the slowest. So if someone enters and exits her field, obviously it's huge. It takes a long time for them to go in and out, but their stats raise slowly. Overall, I think if someone walked from one edge to another, opposite edge of her circle, it would raise a fair bit. But Shen Yu and Maximilian having a medium and Shen Yu having the smallest, they're also more intense. So Shen Yu's stats tend to raise much quicker. So I'm bringing in some free money here, and I'm building up this guy, and these guys are imminently going to blow up. This guy's standing in the way, everyone's a bit confused. It always happens, but they figure themselves out in the end. Now, what else is worth mentioning at the moment? Because I guess nothing is happening right now. This is where I begin to run out of steam, because not with my enthusiasm for the game, but with the capacity to run it as a let's play of sorts, because it's a lot of waiting around for things. Now I could just capture the maiden. In fact, you know what, where is she? Okay, so here's a problem. Okay, she's coming back towards the island, but if I have the henchman away doing the stealing money trick, no one else in the game I can control directly. I am just counting on her walking by the entrance and someone deciding to attack her. Now this will happen fairly shortly because she's walking right towards it, but sometimes you can time it wrong and she's already going off another lap around the base and it's going to take you hours before she comes back. So you see, these guys have now been scheduled to be moved, and someone is already moving them indeed. And his loyalty is taking quite a hit, but his attention more so, which is more problematic to me right now. I could give less of a damn. Hey look, that person randomly saluted. Things are looking up. Well done, you. Now the fun thing is everyone has their own name. And to start off with, I swear to Christ, they always start with the same 5 or so names. And I always make it a point, I recognise so many of these names. I think a lot of them are creators of the games. I think they just took their own credits. Yeah, I recognise him. It makes no difference. It's literally just a random name. But there's a name. I'll know it when I see it. There is a name. Maybe he's probably out in the world. Half of these guys are already abroad. There's a name that I always remember to notice. And I always make it a point to try and keep track of him. And I always lose track of him. And I suspect it isn't just because he's dying. I suspect that when they level up and they turn into a new minion, maybe they get a new name, because I swear the martial artists, who are very clearly Asian in their appearance, which is quite humorous that they turn from, gung-ho American sunglasses and bald mercenaries into mop-top Bruce Lee lookalikes. I swear they have Chinese names. Now everyone has random names, and in fact sometimes they blend names. Like I've seen someone who's Jason Fung. I mean, that's not actually, if these guys are coming from real credits, then that's not out of the realms of possibility. Asian people tend to take Western forenames, especially in America. But I swear on my life that the martial artists have predominantly purely Chinese names. Could just be making it up. I'm also ready to believe that they actually retain their normal names. But in that case, I have no idea where this guy ends up. I hope he made it, because it'd be nice to be able to just tag a minion just to keep an eye on him, just for fun. Like, it would achieve nothing. Okay, so now my master plan comes into action. This is something that I've spotted people doing, and I think is genius, and I've copied it myself, is you have them facing onto, because a lot of the game, the way the game's set up, it seems like a bad idea to have rooms opening up onto each other without doors. Doors are security, doors to keep us safe. You play this game long enough, like I've already said, you realise doors aren't as useful as you think, because if the door is anywhere that's being frequently travelled, as you see here, it's constantly open. And they just wait and they walk through. And also, agents can get through any door eventually anyway. Doors aren't to stop, they're to delay. If you want to seal off everything of the door, that's your prerogative. But if you're sealing off pointless things, like putting a door between a staff room and a barracks, maybe waste an agent's time if he decides to, instead of going towards the base, walks towards a potential staff room that's here. And that's grand and all, but half the time they seem to have a sixth sense for where is the juicy stuff, and they tend to ignore doors that lead to more benign areas. That door is a drain on money and it's a drain on power, if even infinitesimally small, so it doesn't really matter, but what's the sense in having it when you can have an open plan, whatever? And especially when you can blend them together in ways like this, which have no downside. And you can blend them in ways together like this. Now granted, if someone went to jail and then broke out of jail, they immediately can take photos of all the... Oh, it's finally decomposed, that was the last of the body bags. They can immediately take photos of all the dead corpses, and they sometimes even find a corpse from their own profession, their own alliance, and they will weep over it for a bit. And that's pretty neat and stuff. And then they will break out, and then there's guns in here. So yeah, but I mean, they were already in prison. They were already pretty hot under the collar with the belief that, you know, troubles abound. She actually hasn't... This hasn't been built yet. She can't yet be put in it, so she's just been dumped in the armory. That's what they tend to do. Whenever there's nothing available, they will take them to the necessary space and leave them. But yeah, one of the really cool ways you can make use of a open plan base is having this. Having it so that the prison cells open up on the freezer. If I normally had these two rooms separate, or even like connected but via a door, if I decided I wanted a given... oh, she's woken up. She's going to leg it now. He's going to go capture her, and it's all a mess. Well, it's not a mess. I don't care either way, but it's like... It's a brouhaha. If I decided to have this guy shot, I wanted him dead. I didn't want to like brainwash him or do anything interesting with him. I tag him for death. Someone grabs a gun and they shoot him. The body bag falls out of the cell in front of it, like so. Someone would then pick it up, losing loyalty, and wander into the freezer room. Even if they're right next to each other and it's like a second and they barely have any time to lose loyalty, you're also wasting time with them having to relocate the corpse. Having them fall literally into the freezer, they then don't bother picking up the body because the body is already where it needs to be. It is already giving off no negatives. The whole thing has been accomplished. Right, I am going to stop here for reasons. Well, I'm going to pause for reasons. Back in a sec.